have such sights to show you. We're Poppin the Scary Horror Podcast here. I'm your host, Coale, and with me as always, I have my good friend and co-host, Aaron. Aaron, greetings, my friend. How goes it?
Dandy.
No, well, that's just dandy to hear as well.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm saying there? So, I don't have a smooth transition for Saw, but nothing's a smooth transition with Saw, I don't think at all.
Oh, no.
Especially with their classic jump cut editing skills there.
Yeah, they're all how it feels to chew 5 gum ass shit.
Yes, exactly. So, yeah, we're heading back to the Saw franchise here. I figured it was time to visit a third one. Now, before I get into the reason why I'm very peculiar about this episode and very curious to dive back into this one, Aaron, for those that haven't heard your previous thoughts on the last two films and everything, what's your overall vibe of the Saw franchise thus far?
Man, it's kind of neat. It's very, gore porn, torture porn, if you're into that, it's cool. I feel like the last one, at least, was a little light on story, memorable characters, besides the actual dude. And I felt like they were progressing pretty fast for there to be, 10 of these movies. Like, last movie, they were, bing, bang, bomb, we're on the bad guy's head kind of deal. So, it kind of makes me wonder how quickly this will progress and what will happen to the main bad guy, really.
Yeah, and it's funny because I don't know how much you paid close attention to the film's release, but it basically became a situation where it was released yearly. Like Saw 1 was released in 2004, Saw 2 2005, this one 2006, and it looks like they kept up with the yearly releases right up to Saw 7.
Oh.
Then afterwards, they took a little bit of a break there. But, I mean, just to have films coming out consistently, year after year, it's definitely nothing to sneeze at there. But at the same point, it does start to begin to worry, because obviously the first one, they had a lot more time to think about stuff, and that's why I tend to like the first one as much as I do there. Not to mention the fact that even though I love the Saw franchise, the thing that is most notably known for with the torture porn aspect there, I'm not into that. I love the goofy storyline with John Kramer and his ideologies. I get more behind that. And I do like the ideas of the traps. I just hate seeing them play out.
Right, yeah. I mean, obviously the point of these movies is to really hone in on that aspect, and it can be uncomfortable by design, but it's not my brand of uncomfortable that I love either. So.
Right, exactly. And from what I remember, you liked the first one pretty good, and then the second one was all right in your eyes there. Going into the third one, are you a little bit more trepidatious? A little bit?
I mean, just seeing that step down with the sequel, and, horror movie sequels tend to go down in quality, at least from my experience so far. So, Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm a little nervous because if, 1 is the ceiling and then we're going under that with 2, how far down does the rabbit hole go?
But there has been times where you did like the further sequel better than the other one. So far with Friday the 13th being the only one where you're like, hey, this is more fun and everything. So who knows if it's going to end up being more Friday the 13th going up, or if it's just gonna keep stepping downwards there. Now, for me, I'm interested in viewing this film because I've only ever seen this film once. I watched it once whenever I was binging it with my wife and everything, watching all the films. And whenever I watched the third one, I didn't actually like it. Now, here's a weird thing. I've listened to a lot of podcasts, especially with Jay of the Dead's podcast, where they reviewed all the Saw films leading up to Saw 10 that released last year. And a lot of people were saying that the third one was better than the first one in their eyes. And for me, I was like,
oh, really?
Yeah, kind of like that. It was just sort of like a,
oh, you think so?
Am I missing something? Did I miss something with this film there? Like, I'm just very curious and confused, if that makes sense, because I'm like, from what I remember, the third one was on the lower echelon, the lower part of the ranking of the films for me. So I'm curious about revisiting this film, not so much be like, prove me wrong, but just out of genuine curiosity, just to see exactly whether this film is like actually better than what I remember, and maybe I was just, I don't know, maybe just having an off day or something, or if it just comes to matter of a difference of opinion. So yeah, I figured that was just a fair. I tried to never create a bias before seeing a film or anything like that, but I feel like this is definitively kind of middling, like where I didn't care for it, but then others really like it a ton. So we'll figure out which side of the cut I'll be on.
What side of the fence are we gonna fall on today?
Hopefully the one with the least amount of traps, bud.
True.
Hopefully so, but the only way to find out is by watching Saw 3, so we'll be back after we watch the film.
Yeah.
And that sounded like a little bumblebee. And we have just survived watching Saw 3. And Aaron, baby, what do you think of Saw 3?
It's Saw 3 of the movies now. And they're all kind of the same. I don't know. I can't say I'm underwhelmed. I can't say I'm overwhelmed. I'm just whelmed. I'm whelmed. We witnessed a Saw movie. There are moments that I appreciate. There's a lot of just, I feel like this might be, I don't know, my memory is like a goldfish, but I feel like this might be the worst as far as graphic scenes that we've seen yet in a Saw.
Yes.
Yeah.
I would agree, because I felt like they were trying to use more digital effects as opposed to the previous film kept to more practical effects. Now, granted, there are practical effects in this film, but there are some CG effects that are used in this film that have aged like milk.
Yeah, I mean, well, some of the Saw aesthetic in general, I feel like is aged like milk. Like we were making comments on the alt rock ending credits music, and it's like it just kind of summarizes the vibe of some of the Saw. Feels a little, I don't know, it just feels a little stale at this point, which I feel like they were trying to make this one the freshest one ever, and for me, it's kind of the mess one ever. I mean,
that's fair.
That's just I can see why people on the internet are like, Saw 3 is the best one because it has like a plot twist or whatever. But it just seemed like the most like, give me the gun, I'll shoot myself in the head kind of plot twist. I just didn't seem like that. I was like, yeah, that's not that much of a twist. But then then they're like, oh yeah, you didn't know, let me replay all the past scenes so you could see that this was happening the whole time. I was just like, man, I don't know. This film's just like, bleh. At least they gave it a plot, but like I was worried there for the beginning, because in the beginning it's real meandering. It's meandering as hell, but they get there, and then I don't know. I'm just this is not my favorite franchise.
Boys and girls, we're about to have a good episode. Oh man. All right, dude.
Yeah.
We're going to just dive right in and just kind of see what you think about it. I'm going to keep my overall thoughts on whether this film did better or worse in my mind once we get to ratings.
How it played out for you.
Yes,
coming
for
back
sure.
To it, but
well, technically, I think we're going to talk about our thoughts and feelings about it anyways. Yeah, let's find out. You know what? Why not? Okay. Let's see if we can figure out where I stand or whatevers. So, talking about Saw 3, released in 2006, as previously discussed, the plot of Saw 3 focuses on our boy again, John Kramer, except, by the way, spoilers for anything Saw related. I don't feel the need to say it, but I'm just doing it just in case. Just throw it over there.
You probably want to watch 1 and 2.
Yes, definitely need to watch 1 and 2 to understand a lot more of the plot points there.
Yeah.
But it focuses on our boy, John Kramer, who isn't doing too well given the cancer and the tumor that he has going on in his brain and everything. And his assistant, Amanda, as was revealed in Saw 2, helps him out by finding a doctor. Mm-hmm. And the doctor finds herself in a predicament to where she has to help John or die trying, basically. Mm-hmm. And while this is going on, we have our own series of traps that our boy Jeff has to get through here. Mm-hmm. And it's pretty much a self-discovery sort of route for him, but the decisions that he makes is going to be very, very life-changing. Let's just say that.
Yeah.
I think that's about the best way I could describe the plot lightly and everything else. And I can't wait till ratings, dude. I'm just gonna let you know how it is. I can't wait, dude, because I'm already gonna talk about this. I was thinking about my thoughts about it, and I was like, man, I'm gonna spoil it already.
Yeah. It's gonna be hard for me to talk about this without spoiling some stuff.
Yes. What I'm going to say is, I like this film better the second time round.
Well, good.
I can keep it at that. Mm-hmm. We'll talk more about the overall feelings whenever we get towards the end. Mm-hmm. But I do like the plot idea. I like that they're changing it up again just a little bit there.
Yeah.
Tobin Bell is always super enjoyable to see, and so I'm glad they're still incorporating him into the plot, because at the end of Saw 2, you just see him kind of bleeding out in the van.
Yeah.
As Donnie Wahlberg is tricked into being trapped in the bathroom, right, trying to look for his son and everything. But I do like the plot idea. It definitely raises a lot of tensions, especially in a scenario where a doctor's life is on the line based on their patient's life being on the line as well. Mm-hmm. And whenever she's having to take procedures, the amount of tension and everything else that's built up on it does make for interesting dynamic, at the very least, because I'd be nervous as hell basically trying to operate on somebody where if they die, I die. Yeah. And I like that dynamic aspect, and I do like that it does dive into more of the dynamic relationship between Shawnee Smith playing Amanda again and Tobin Bell playing John Kramer. Mm-hmm. I really like that aspect of lot. I the thing that gets me through the Saw films is not the traps, even though I am curious, like, oh, what new trap ideas will they come up with?
Like, oh, well, that's
I love the goofy lore and the belief. That's what gets me through these films. I'm like, if there were zero traps and it's just them talking about their beliefs and stuff, like it's humanities class or something like that, I'm like, yeah, let's go, baby. And so it's definitely interesting because you do dive more into their own mentalities further as to, like, okay, what aspects about this lifestyle do they like versus dislike, and who they target versus who they don't target. So I do find it interesting that the film does take time to dive more into that aspect there. And granted, I don't know if it's just because I've seen all the Saw films and looking back, I'm just picking up more and I'm like, oh, yeah, it's very interesting and everything. Because, I mean, I was with Aaron. I was underwhelmed the first time I saw it. But maybe it's just because, again, seeing so much of the films, the theology, the ideology and everything sunk into me. And so it was sticking out to me more. And I'm like, oh, okay. All right, I'm seeing what you're doing, Saw 3. Okay. And I do like that the traps are a little bit reversed and everything, as opposed to one person being stuck in a trap. It's a series of people that are stuck in traps related to one person that's having to navigate through all of the traps, kind of like a dadgum museum or something like that.
Yeah.
So I think that's definitely a nifty way to shift things up. And putting it in perspective, it's like you have two guys in a bathroom for the first one. Second one, a whole bunch of people trapped in a house.
Mm-hmm.
And now the third one is like a little walkthrough going through the traps and everything else.
Mm-hmm.
And so talking specifically from a plot idea wise sort of thing, not regarding execution or anything else like that, I do like that idea.
Mm-hmm.
And I do like that they are interlinked and everything else.
Yeah.
There's definitely some moments that are, again, very unintentionally goofy.
Mm-hmm.
At least I didn't see it intentionally goofy wise, which I kind of miss. I kind of miss the black comedy of the first film.
Yeah.
There, in this one. I mean, it's still all right. It still does a job and everything else, but yeah, there's definitely some pacing issues. Like I said, the beginning definitely was slow. I was like, and not going to lie, because I binged these movies, a lot of the events start to bleed in from one another. So I'm like, does this film have this scene or that scene? Because there's a couple of scenes that was shown at the beginning, and I'm like, oh no, is this film this one? And I'm like, no, right? No, I can't remember. And fortunately, it was not. The scenes that I was like, doing that there, I'm just like, yeah, I don't know about that one, but that's for a film for possibly a never day, doing that. But speaking plot wise, I like it. I believe the characters' motivations. I like how the plot progresses and everything. It's interesting. It's very interesting. So I have to give mad props to it. We'll go ahead and talk about some of the characters since I know we've already discussed the film. One of the peeps, obviously, got to talk about is our boy Tobin Bell back in the role as John Kramer, aka Jigsaw. And I don't know. I think he just has hit it out of the park in all three films. He does exactly what he needs to. And it's fine. Granted, it's a little bit more tricky to judge his performance since he is very sickly and doesn't get to do as much. I mean, he's laying in the bed the entire time, very weak speaking. But, I mean, for what he had and everything, I still thought he hit it out of the park and everything. I mean, not maybe as enjoyable as 2, where he's kind of more taunting Donnie Wahlberg and everything. But at the same point, I liked it, and it's always good to see my boy Tobin Bell just rocking and rolling as John Kramer. Any thoughts about it, or I guess I guess at this point, Aaron's holding on like he has a revolver of the critiques that he's waiting to fire on. Like as soon as that, like
it's really not that bad. It's just
no. And trust me, when you see that point, please fire away at any point. I give you full permission. Second Amendment, baby. Right to arm bears.
Yeah.
It's all good.
I mean, a lot of it, I know that once I get started on my soapbox, I'm not going to be able to stop. So
well, once you see a moment, you do not throw away your shot. Do that. But I liked him. Also, Shawnee Smith, I'm also a big fan of. Definitely has some goofy moments, intentionally, unintentionally there, but I like her a lot, both as a character and with her performance. I felt like she got to do way more in this one. Like it was almost focusing more on her this film than it was even Jigsaw, and I think that's perfectly fine. I mean, I think it's honestly kind of awesome to have kind of like a figure like her in the horror realm and everything, and it is a self of learning more about her, because we only learned that she was working with Jigsaw at the end of 2. You only saw her briefly in 1, so it's kind of neat to see her in action and be kind of an accomplice for John and everything. And you could tell she's having fun with the role. She does everything good. It's super enjoyable. Again, another like 10 out of 10 performance when it comes to like Saw acting and everything. Obviously, if it came to like cinematically comparing to every performance ever, it's hard to top some performances I've seen in my lifetime. But whenever it comes to realm of horror, both Shawnee Smith and Tobin Bell do top the charts in the horror realm aspect for like, man, that's just a good performance. We got fun characters. It's just a good time, baby. So I liked her, and I do like some of the stuff that is revealed. And it's funny because I have seen the other Saw films, and there are minute moments that I don't think you ever caught whim of, that I'm like, oh my god, so they didn't just add that scene in. That was actually in the film, but it's so minute and everything. So it's definitely fun just revisiting the film in that aspect, because as you could probably agree with the editing, they love showing scenes from previous films. They love just showing like, yeah, this happened in the previous film, and then they interjected whether it is like a crazy transition or something like that. But overall, yeah, I really enjoyed her performance. Probably Shawnee Smith was honestly even more enjoyable to watch than Tobin Bell was. But again, the film is focused more solely on her, and you see why towards the end of the film. We might as well talk about the Dr. Lin, played by Bahar Sumek. And I thought she was perfectly fine as an actress and everything. The only problem that came to be is the fact that whenever it came to developing her character, it's really kind of kept shrouded a bit in mystery a little bit, but not even in a teasing mystery. Like, they omit it and everything. And it's understandable why later on. But whenever they hold the cards, it's kind of like interesting, because first time I saw it and everything, I'm just like, man, this gal has like nothing. It's just, she's a doctor.
Yeah, she is pretty thin. She's definitely, I think, at least for most of the movie, propped up as a device to develop the other two characters in the scene, more so than her. But
I think that's honestly even a better way of describing it there. And, I think there's nothing wrong with having other characters prop up other characters you want to build up and everything. It just comes at the sacrifice of her performance and everything. But also at the same point, I don't feel like it was ever like a bad performance either, where I'm just like, man, she's just boring to watch. I obviously did want to see her escape and everything. And, she is trying to work her way out, and she's struggling with her own battle, as it's seen early on and everything. And so with a combination of mentally not being all there and also being put under stress and everything, it just builds the tension up of every cut, every injection, everything you do trying to save John's life and everything is going to matter at that moment. But one other plot device that I do really like is the fact that whenever it came to the trap and everything, I do like how they specify you have to keep John alive while this other dude does this trap. Because it makes it more believable, especially given the fact about how severe the tumor and cancer is in John's mind, that again, there's kind of like no way out of it. If it's like, oh, you have to save him and everything, as opposed to the fact that there is no saving him, just at least holding it off so that way he can live through this guy's test that he goes through. So I did like that at the very least, that there was a light at the end of the tunnel. It's not like one of those things like, oh, you can't die ever. And it's like, well, that just sucks for me and everything. We'll also jump over to our main man, who's going through the series of tests himself, Jeff, played by Angus McFadden. And first time I saw the film, I couldn't stand this dude. He was just very obnoxious and everything. Definitely was just like, man, I do not care about this dude. But second time round, kind of like watching it and everything, while there is some like cheesy performances he does on his end and everything, thinking about it as a whole and just taking in sort of like the suffering of loss and the tragedy he's going through and everything, I was like, okay, I can handle his character a lot better, and I appreciate more of the nuances there. Granted, he's not safe. He is not safe whenever you get to spoilers. He does not get a pass yet. This is in full clearance there. But I picked, with the way they were initially writing the character and everything, I was like, okay, I can appreciate this, but it's more so a plot aspect. Like, oh, what if some dude had to go through a series of tests where other people who affected his life had to suffer and everything.
Yeah.
I like the idea more than the actual character itself.
Yeah, well, because I don't think there is much of a character beyond the idea. That's sort of my criticism with a lot of the Saw movies, but this one really stands out, where the only people that have, like, actual characters are, like, the two bad people, and then everyone else is, like, a concept. You know what I mean? Like, this guy, his whole character is, I lost my son, and I'm not over it yet, and, like... That's like all. They just wrote that on a napkin and gave it to him. I was like, "Here's your character," and then he's like, "Oh, okay." And then he just walks in and shot all of his things in a day and went home. Like, it was like there's nothing else to his character, so I don't give a fuck about him. I don't give a fuck about the doctor lady either. She was like, "Oh, I take antidepressants, so I guess I deserve to be blown the fuck up or something, unless I save this madman's tumor life." Like, I was like, okay, like, and then she's just like, well, I'm scared and nervous because I have a collar that will blow my fucking brains out if I make a mistake. So that's their whole character. And every person that's in a trap, they're just like, yeah, I'm in a trap. Yeah, I know, like... Not that every character has to be like, my favorite color is purple, and when I was 6, like, not that they need to be developed that way, but, like, it's just like, well, also, why do I care about this person? It's just, I don't know. That's my criticism of every character, is that there aren't actually characters. There's just cardboard cutouts that, like, scream and stuff, and they slap an idea on their head. It's basically the episode of The Office where they all have a label on top of their head that's like, Asian, black, or they have to guess what everybody else is. They're like, oh, I'm judge that sentenced your son's killer to not enough time. Watch me gargle pig goo. It's like, all right. But why do I give a fuck as the audience? I don't, really. I didn't for most of the movie, so that's okay, I'm stepping off my soapbox. But...
No, okay, we'll dust it off, get ready for round 2 later. Yeah, it's fine. Speaking of which, let's see. I'm trying to think of other characters to talk about.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
They all die, or are just people that are in little traps that probably died. We've already talked about the characters that matter. It's the dude with the brain tumor and Amanda, and that's it. There's 2 other people doing traps for the rest of the movie, but they don't really matter. As the characters, there's 4. Being generous, there's 4 characters. Realistically, there's 2, but there's approximately 4, and then a bunch of background noise.
All right, we can talk about any other characters that pop up. We can just put a close on the main character cast line. We're just going to just
every other character either pops up in flashbacks or is just like tying up a loose end from other movies, and I've spent most of the movie remembering who they were until they died, so I was like, okay, but I was like, remind me who this person is. Oh, okay, and they're dead.
And it doesn't matter. Oh my gosh. Yeah, so I'm just gonna keep moving forward then. Just gonna keep moving forward then, since that's what the
that's just me, man.
No.
If you guys love character number 3, then I mean, by all means, you guys could be big fans at home, but I don't remember anything about them except for my son and I'm a doctor, and that's it. Those are the characters. Let's talk about editing. I don't know.
Yeah. You're like, good.
There weren't as many stupid flash cuts in this one, which is kind of sad because that's kind of the style as I expected to feel like a 5 gum commercial, but it was still very green. It was still a very green tinted movie, so I recognized it as Saw. But
understandable. You're good. We can go ahead and talk about editing there. I can tell.
I'm sorry.
No. You're fine. You're fine.
I'm gonna give this an objective, fair rating.
You should.
All my bitching, but I just don't think these movies are very good.
Well, you like the first one though, right?
Probably, but I'm tired of it. But if I watch the first one again right now, I'd give it like a 2. I don't know.
Jesus.
Even though it's amazing, I'm sure, but I'm too tired of Saw. I saw it all the first time.
You
That's
three
why they
tired?
That's why they call it Saw.
Wait, maybe
I already saw it.
No, maybe you're too tired.
Maybe.
You're like, first one, okay, yeah, that's awesome too. All right, slow, slow down. 3.
I do appreciate what they did with the plot, and they made it a little different because I do like him wandering into each room, solving the puzzles. But I also think it's stupid. It doesn't affect. It has nothing to do with the philosophy of John Kramer from Seinfeld, because he like these people that he's given a gallery for that are inevitably going to die. He has no chance for them to save themselves. It's all based off of one dude who's massively incompetent because he has to think about his son before he grabs the key while this woman's getting Chinese water frozen tortured or whatever. And I'm like, bro, just, if I accidentally stubbed my toe in front of this guy while he was watching his son die, and then I ended up in, fucking Saw room getting my guts eaten out by a pig or whatever fucked up trap some maniac thought of, I wouldn't be like, wow, this is a chance for me to save my life like every other Saw puzzle was. It's just like, oh, this guy could save your life, but too bad he's fucking stupid. Anyway, okay, well, let's have him go through all these puzzles now. It just like, I don't know, I know he has a giant brain tumor, but the dude's philosophy is kind of dripping for his big brain mastermind as the guy's supposed to be. I'm like, none of these people had a chance to live realistically. You are just murdering people, and it's not really that interesting to me.
So editing is pretty nostalgic, time capsule and everything. Woo! Doing the jump cuts and everything else like that. Mm-hmm. I don't know. At this point, I can see why it's like irritating and just annoying and obnoxious and everything.
I felt like the way they handled it in this one was not too bad. Yeah,
no, it was pretty tame for the most part there.
It was a stylistic choice. It's not, I won't shit on it for that.
Yeah. For me, it's just kind of like there's that classic Saw editing and everything. It is always funny to see the editing because, again, I just still think about that car scene transition from the first film. The one whenever the car's pulling forward and the windshield is cutting the scene like George Lucas like. Yeah. But they do a lot of cuts like that where they're like swooping around the room and it's like, oh, it's a different room in a house.
Yeah, they did that like 3 times. The first time I was like, okay, I get it, disorienting, cool. And then I was like, all right, you guys did this one like 3 times, but all right, go off, Kate.
Yeah, but it's like, it's just one of those things that it's goofy, but also I wouldn't have it any other way. Mm-hmm. I'm just like, yes, keep the goofy transitions. I eat that up.
The goofy transitions, the fucking 2006 ass like sound editing and music in the background and shit. It just made me, this whole movie just feels like a TV show, like I'm watching 1.5 hour long TV shows every movie, and I'm like, all right, and we're continuing with the last character stuff. We're just we just keep going, and it's like I'm watching an HBO show, but it's not that good, There's 1.5 hours of my life, and I just watched another episode of Saw. The pilot was real good, but now I don't know that I want to finish the season. It's got 10 episodes this season? Jesus. All right. More of this? All right.
Oh my gosh. This might be Krampus mode. So far we're tracking for Krampus. So far,
no, it's not that bad of a movie. It's not. It's just there's so many plot holes that I couldn't. By the time I reached the end, my ankles were stuck in the Saw trap ass plot holes, and I couldn't quite reach the key at the end.
Artistically said, very very artistically, perfectly referenced said. Yes, you're welcome. But yeah, it's like it has that good old editing there, and I love the lighting, like the dim, dingy lighting there. Mm-hmm. And I even like how whenever they have a flashback to Amanda being in the trap, they actually perfectly did the exact same lighting as they did in the first film and everything. Yeah. Probably because it was still on set, given it just 2 years later it was released. Right. And everything. But I did like the lighting of it and the overall atmosphere because, again, as you are seeing Jeff is kind of trapped in like a meat
Yeah.
packing plant. So it's nifty environment. I like how they changed the environment where it's like either the bathroom for the most part there or the house, and now it's a meat packing plant. I do find it interesting and endearing changing the setting and everything.
Yeah,
Not only
creative.
that, but you get to see more of Jigsaw's lair where you see all of the traps laying out and everything, just rusty tools, traps, contraptions, blueprints on the walls, everything. It's a fun setting. It's a fun setting. I like looking at everything there. So I like that. I like editing, music, stuff. Now, let's talk about the traps without spoiling anything, because we'll get into nitty gritty. How did you feel the traps fared? If we're being fair, maybe the second one, since the first one wasn't as heavily trap focused and everything.
I feel like the traps in this movie are actually really good. Yeah. For the, like, overall score for like creative value of like, what if we tortured somebody this way? If you're a torture porn geek out there, you're a torture porn nerd. Yeah, no, I feel like Saw 3 has got some good traps. There are some ideas where I'm like, well, I don't know how you'd have to be, like, how fucked in the head you'd have to be to think of this one. But, like, nice going. Grade A psychopathy. But, yeah, I mean, it's like, I feel like that aspect, they did really well. The transitions between the traps, they did really well. But at the same time, some of them were just like, I don't know, can I spoil this one? It's just like, what if people had it? What if he was chained up? But like in his skin.
Yeah,
I was like, all right. What if he was in a box on top of like a forklift, but he wasn't forklift certified? So, well, that'd be OSHA wouldn't like that one, you know.
Hello, Warren. All your life you've been working in a warehouse, but you've never been forklift certified.
That's what it felt like at times. They were like, you weren't paying attention to your kid or whatever, so now you have to fix my brain tumor. I feel like he really phoning in it sometimes with some of these, but
That's fair. That's
yes,
fair.
No, but absolutely, I feel like the traps, all the ones that were like kind of phoned that trap in for me were also like the unimportant ones. I feel like the time they spend on specific traps in this movie that are like actually needing to be solved, I think they're pretty good overall. Yeah.
Okay, well, that's good. That's good. It's something Saw 3 did good.
Yeah. No,
You're doing that.
No, I give a lot. There's some things I'm hung up on, but I give it a lot of props for. At least I like the plot that they attempted, and like the sort of the interwoven storylines of like the doctor in the operating room and Amanda and all that, and the guy who's trying to solve the puzzles in the back end, and like how are these things going to fit together? They've obviously been twisted together in the beginning because they're like, hey, you know, this guy, you got until he finishes the thing to make me not die. So like I get that they put it together initially like that, but then, you know, as stuff goes on and you're learning more about both these people, you're like, how are these plots gonna twist together in the end? And I feel like they did a good job of keeping it wrapped. I like the environment. I like the traps. There are good things to say about this movie. It's also things I'm just stuck on. My brain is just stuck on. But
well, we are going to clear up that stuckage here in a little bit there, because I don't think, aside from me, do you have anything else you'd want to talk about before spoilers?
Man, I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't think so, yeah.
Yeah, that's perfectly fine. I kind of feel the same way, where I can't feel like I talk any more about the film without spoiling it.
Yeah.
So, Aaron.
Sure.
Moment I've been kind of waiting for, you know, this is it, you know, sort of
Yeah.
moment. Please give your rating for Saw 3.
Yeah. I'll give you a real brief synopsis of my criticisms thus far. Acting, the characters themselves written poorly, very poorly. The plot itself, as far as an arc goes, is actually pretty interesting, but just there's so many little holes in that story arc that it's just, you know, it's like climbing up, it's like a rock climbing wall for me to get to the end. Like I appreciate the neat little loop they tie together in the end with a little bow, but God, just so many things had to happen a very specific way for that little loop to close. Anyway. So, scripts, writing overall, really bad for me. Characters, for the most part, really bad, besides the two interesting bad guys. There's a lot of cheese, a lot of just, I don't love looking at all this trap stuff, so it's not, you know, watching it now is like, well, this is the worst it's ever been. That's a compliment for some who are looking for that kind of thing out of a Saw franchise. For me, I was like, wow, my eyeballs just witnessed a lot of things that I could have done without. But all that together to say, but I will give it props for the general idea, the atmosphere, the traps. It is a very creative franchise overall, and this is a great example of that in this film series. So I give it 5 rotting pigs out of 10. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it all evens out because I do feel like, yeah, if you're looking for just what you would be looking for when you pop in a Saw movie, the good traps, the grand philosophy, the scheming and planning that ultimately accumulates into something, but also, it's a horror movie. It's not that serious. If you want all that bundled together, I mean, you could do far worse than Saw 3. I think Saw 3, yeah, it's got its good points. It's just other points, like characters that I'm gonna remember tomorrow, is low. So it's got its highs and its lows, but overall, yeah, it's like a 5. Yeah, it's average.
That's honestly way higher than what I thought you were going to rate it.
No, I told you. Dude. I'm gonna give it.
I'm guessing it's because you really have high likes and then high dislikes about the film that just kind of beat itself down.
There's just things that really rub me the wrong way. I'll put it that way. That we'll talk about in spoilers about how things shake out. But
all right. Well, for me, I am definitely glad I revisited this film because, especially after watching Saw 10, which is a sequel to 1 and everything, it's definitely fun to revisit it, and I'm glad I did overall. I see exactly why people say, like, oh, this is actually the best Saw film in the franchise. Now, do I believe that? No way. Nope. Absolutely not. No chance. Nuh-uh. Nope. Nuh-uh. I am still... maybe it's just I'm riding the high from 1 and everything. Even though I can admit there are faults in 1, the good stuff is just too good and everything. Whereas this film, it does have some good stuff, but also some really bad stuff that I wasn't too about and everything. So I do like it more than the first time I saw it, but it does not come anywhere near dethroning the first one. The second one, maybe. It just kind of depends on the aspect I'm looking for there. If I want to have fun with Tobin, I'll go to 2. If I want to have fun with Amanda, I'll go to 3. It's kind of like, pick the flavor you want and everything. So I do like that because there is things in 2 that I like and dislike, and then same thing with 3. There are things I like and dislike about it. Now, can I definitively say which one I like better? Off the top of my head, maybe 3, but like only by a hair. Like it's pretty much on par for me. At the very least there. But who knows? It's kind of one of those things that whenever I watched 2 again, I was a little bit more underwhelmed the second time than I was the first time watching it. And now I have kind of the opposite effect where I'm kind of, surprised at how enjoyable the third one was. But yeah, if I had to rate it, in all honesty, I'm pretty close with Aaron where I'd rate it probably like, I don't know, 5.5, 6 if I'm being super generous, but like around there, kind of middling average and everything. I do like it, and I could see myself, not anytime soon, but revisiting the film. Like if I wanted to get those sick Amanda lore bits or something like that. But yeah, if it comes to the overall film and everything, it's like, yeah, there's some scenes that I'm just like, okay, let's get past that. And I did start like phasing out of my body whenever they just started talking and everything. And then I went back, and trust me, I love the bits where they talk about their philosophy and their high-horsedness and everything else like that. But yeah, for me, it's also above average, just a little above average for me. And I'm happy I revisited this film. But that being said, I still hold true that I think the first Saw film is just a better film, a more fun film, and is everything I love about. Like, it's just my favorite one out of the bunch. I'm just gonna keep it there. So yeah, let that be the determination as to whether you want to continue watching Saw. Because if you didn't like 2, chances are 3's probably not going to win you over, but it might not also hurt you. Or you might enjoy it as your new favorite. Maybe. I don't know. Maybe. But at least I could see why people like 3 more than 1. Don't agree with it, but I can see it.
I get it. I get the appeal. I get why people would sit down and be like, yeah, this movie's amazing. Because if you love those traps and you are one to accept the ending, I guess, then
yes,
and be pleased by it, then yes,
yes,
both of those things would lead this to be a great movie.
The ending is very divisive because on the one hand, it feels like a Saw ending, but on the other hand, the ending doesn't feel natural.
No, yeah, that's what I want to talk about in spoilers mostly, is just all the very specific things that had to happen for it to end that way. And
yes.
John's like,
for sure.
Well, it had to end this way. I'm a genius.
I love your John impersonation. He just sounds like Orson Welles. I'm a genius. I'm going to come up with a trap that's parted on a dolly.
Yeah.
Zoom in closer. Closer.
Deep into my face.
We're going to spoil Saw 3, everybody, so get the heck out if you don't get it spoiled.
Get
so
the fuck out of here. I don't want you here anymore.
I mean, please come back for the next episode.
Don't even come back.
Aaron, please spoil the hell out of Saw 3.
I guess we'll start at the beginning, which didn't make any fucking sense to me. Probably just because I forget all these characters. But like the cop lady who got her rib cage fucking eviscerated open just because Amanda didn't like her. What was their beef again?
So from this, I'm going to be honest with you. This might be a potential spoiler for all the films and everything, but I'm just going to lay it on you because spoiler for next teaser, it's not going to be Saw 4.
Okay, great.
Fantastic. Yeah. Exactly what I want to hear. But it's either I'm misremembering it because the film has moments where they'll take moments like that and it's like, remember this moment? It does like the Kingdom Hearts sort of technique there where they take a moment and build it up more. But from what I understand, solely based on 3 and everything, I believe that she was captured just due to Amanda overall wanting to kill people. Like she wants to see others suffer, which kind of defeated the overall purpose. And I'm guessing she just targeted the female police officer, which I believe her name was Carrie, played by Dinah Meyer, which I thought she did fine, but literally is on there for 5 minutes.
Yeah, exactly.
Or something like that.
They started to build her up like she was a character that mattered, and then they just killed her instantly, and that just sort of killed my momentum. I had to build that up again.
Yeah, because like there's the whole thing where they purposely made the trap unfair and everything, because the key they get from the acid and everything doesn't unlock it, and it rips her cage open. And my only guess as to why is the fact that she didn't want her investigating any further into Donnie Wahlberg's disappearance. That's about the only thing I can guess or surmise. There's not a real strong motivation. If you want it in movie terms, they're like, what if we had this badass trap that ripped your rib cage out?
Exactly, yeah. And that's unfortunately how I started to feel by the end of the movie, is it's like, what if we had this badass trap that turned pigs into goo and made you drown in it and shit. And I was like, hey, that's a cool idea for a trap, but like I'm so much less invested when I don't care about the outcome. You know what I mean?
Yes, and I will say, I can't remember this. There might be more reason as to why she died, because there are, even though you didn't see it, there are other players at play. Yeah. Unfortunately.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So that was just sort of a jarring way to start the movie. Is they start in with her and her other cop friends, and they're looking at these murders, and they do give you a little nugget that's relevant through the movie where she's investigating the trap of the guy who just had all the chains, and they were like, how'd you get in here? And they're like, we had to cut through the door because it was welded shut. And she was like, yeah, this doesn't seem like Jigsaw because then the trap wasn't fair, and that sort of like explains the rest of the movie happenings. And I get that, and I was like, that's cool.
Yeah,
but yeah, it was still disorienting for me to spend like the first 10 minutes of the movie with a whole bunch of people that just then don't matter at all. And then I was like, okay, wait, like, is that going to come up again? And no, none of it did. The police people never came up again. They were never part of the movie or the plot or the conflict at all. It just sort of jumped into the next part of the movie. And I was like, okay, it took me a minute to like lose all that before I joined the rest of it. But
yeah, they do spend time like setting it up like it's going to be focusing again on the police side and everything.
Because like 2 was like that, and so I was like, okay, we're gonna have more of this.
But no, it's kind of like a throwaway thing. And I will say, in the future films, those the other police officers do appear later on in films, and everything. So maybe they were setting it up early. If they were planning on yearly releases, they're like, hey, we're planning on doing something with this character. Let's write them in here so that way they're introduced early. That could also be another reason. But yeah, that could have also led to another reason as to why Carrie was killed, because she was the one that observed and says, this doesn't seem like Jigsaw, because this seems like a very unfair trap with zero way to escape. That even if he ripped off all of the chains off of his body and everything, he would still die.
Right.
So maybe that's another reason as to why Amanda targeted her, because she's like, you know too much or whatever. But again, it is also one of those situations that it should be blatantly obvious that like somebody would have probably figured out this isn't a Jigsaw trap because we couldn't even get out.
Right.
There's no way they could have survived or whatever. And again, I think it just boils down to, hey, what if we had a sick trap where we had rings attached to the body and you have to rip it out before a bomb goes off?
Right, yeah. And it was like, yeah. I mean, there was a lot of cool trap design. I'm not dissing that. It's just, there are some decisions they make that it's why I made a comment earlier that if this feels like another episode of a TV show, it's like, okay, well, you guys all remember the cops, so we don't have to do anything to establish them. And then this one dies, and it doesn't matter because it's just the first 10 minutes of a TV show. Like, you can start a TV show that way because you just watched the last episode. But I didn't just watch the last Saw. I didn't remember these people. I was like, yeah, this person looks familiar, but what do they do again? Oh, they're dead. Okay.
Yes.
Let's move. And then, they're never coming up again? That's weird, because it just expects you to continue knowledge from the previous films. Usually when you make a movie, it's got to be, like, obviously, it takes reference and context from the previous films into consideration, but it still has to be a self-contained thing. And this one just seemed like, continuing a TV show.
That's actually a good comparison, kind of like watching an HBO series or whatever. Right. So I could see that. In all honesty, that's probably why I was able to binge them, because I'm just like keeping up with everything. Right, because picking it up.
You got the knowledge in So I feel like that would probably make the experience better if you were binging these. But yeah, no, for me, I was just like, okay, well, I guess we'll keep going. But,
but I think that's yeah, totally fair and just. But yeah, like after the, I think they call it the angel wing trap. I think they nicknamed that or whatever. Pretty much it just jumps solely with Dr. Lynn and everything, where she is kidnapped and everything else. And it does show her a bit that she is super smart as a doctor, which even though that scene did drag out, I felt like it was good for plot reasons. So like, okay, she's a really good, smart thinking doctor, can think on the dot about something. Like, even if it is just a scene or whatever, at the very least it shows that she's very competent as a doctor, because if we didn't see her in action prior, it'd be like, well, how do you know she's a good doctor besides, John being like, she's a very good doctor, something like that. So I did like that aspect. I did find it interesting, although it did feel weird, but then it made sense later on whenever it shows her with her partner and everything. It'd be like, I want a divorce or whatever. And she's like, okay, just goes out, because it's definitely a weird way to go about it. But then as you figure out later, that definitely makes sense as to why she was very like, about it, because as you find out at the end of the film, that was someone she was cheating with and everything, and he was saying, I want you to divorce him already,
right,
and everything. So I thought that was good. I did think the way she's kidnapped is goofy as hell.
Yeah.
Because, like, the car garage in the first one, I could actually believe, because nothing good happens in car garages.
True.
Nothing at all whatsoever. But this one is just like, you locked in a room, and then it's kidnapped by Amanda. And it's like, okay, how did you get the body out of a heavily, like, populated place there? Like,
they just sort of gloss over a lot of things. It's like, well, Jigsaw's like magic. So he just,
Jigsaw's magic.
he just is. Like, why is he so omniscient? He's like, I saw you cheating on your husband, and also you are sad, and you don't pay enough attention to your kid. It's like, damn, why don't you raise my kid if you're so involved in my life? The fuck are you doing? Like, you're literally just a doctor in the same hospital that you were once treated in. Have you been doing this to every doctor? Like, what's your problem, guy?
Here, raise my child.
Yeah. Hey, you take care of him. You're so invested in life. Yeah, just blow my fucking brains out. Are you taking antidepressants?
Yeah.
Like, why isn't there ever a guy that's just like, yeah, no, I don't want to live. Just can you just kill me already? Like,
Yeah, just sits there in a trap. This is great.
I didn't have the balls to do it myself, so thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Jigsaw.
Yeah.
No, come on, just seriously, do anything.
No, you vastly overestimated my will to live. Like, you built all this trap for nothing. All right. Wait for my head to explode. Is there a way to speed this up?
Okay, I'm gonna come in there and just get you out of the trap.
I'm just actually going to get you a therapist.
You need to talk this out.
I miscalculated my methods, actually. I do love that this movie explores that, like, he hasn't helped anybody ever. Like, like the one person that's like, he helped her is Amanda, and like she's obviously, he failed the last test. Like she obviously is just now insane and has Stockholm syndrome real bad, and that's why she's following Jigsaw's methods or whatever.
You know, that's actually a good point to raise up. I do like that aspect, because that's like, you know, one of the points that she raises, like, oh, he saved me and everything.
Yeah, and then she didn't. And then she's doing all this shit wrong, and it's just because she's a twisted, crazy bitch.
Yeah, it's just because she's very traumatized and everything.
Insanely from
yes. And not only that, but like, you know, as it's shown, like her own vices is having to slit herself, but she can't show it on the wrist there because she knows she fails. So then she opts to slitting her leg and everything, which it is funny just seeing her pull her trousers down later in the film.
I was like, what's going on here? And then you realize it's an awkward self-harm scene.
But at the same point, I did like seeing that and everything, because she's like not strong, like, you know, she's just not able to get past this thing to where she cannot stop harming herself and everything, and so she's resorted to doing that in order just to still hide it and conceal it. But yeah, it is almost Stockholm syndrome and everything, and I think that's honestly, I like that aspect that they build on more in the film and everything. I think it works good in the first film, not knowing anything, and like, oh, he actually saved me, which feeds into his philosophy. But I like how whenever you dig deeper, it's actually way more messed up and everything.
Right.
So I do think that aspect is really neat and interesting there.
Yeah, I do enjoy that they explored that.
But yeah, it definitely is very interesting kind of seeing the philosophy of Jigsaw play out, especially for Jeff, because that's kind of your biggest thing is that you feel like the people that basically in his eyes condemn, like stopped any sort of justice from happening from losing his son. Because I think, you know, wanting vengeance and everything, I think that's a theme everybody can relate to, where the world unfortunately doesn't operate to where it's like, you know, people that do bad things, be it intentional or non-intentional, don't always receive the punishment that seems the most just and everything. But also at the same point, there's a situation where the people thrown into the traps, and again, it's up to him to decide who lives, who dies. I think it's one of those like double-edged swords. On the one hand, I think it's very interesting that he's making the choice whether they live or die, and it does fit into, again, sort of the Jigsaw philosophy, and it's kind of like a twist, like now you're in control of this,
Right.
but also you can't do it for free. You're going to have to hurt yourself to do it.
Absolutely.
In some aspect. But on the other hand, the people involved don't have a say-so, and it comes down to a benign thing, like whether it's the woman who saw the accident but didn't testify against the person that was on the standing trial, basically, for killing the son. You know, that's pretty, like, okay, that's like the furthest straw you could have grasped for. Anything beyond that would have been ludicrous and everything.
Oh, yeah.
So then they have to step it forward, where it's like, oh, it's the judge who gave the not so harsh sentence, and then it's the actual person who killed the son and everything. But it's an interesting thing that I like it, but it does again kind of contradict his own belief.
What contradicts it for me is that there was realistically not a chance that he saved most of these people. You know what I mean? He tries to save the woman. He just doesn't do it in time, and she freezes to death, and he injures himself basically for nothing. Because he hesitates every time. He hesitated with the dude that was drowning in pig maggot slop too, but he managed to get him out in time anyways. Only to shoot him in the face on accident with the other trap. And it's like, there's no realistically, like he's presented this as like, you have the option to save these people, but like, he tried to save all three of them at the end of the day, and didn't save any of them, which I thought was the point, or whatever, maybe actually, because he's like, I couldn't save them, or whatever, and that was, it's like, oh, there's the real lesson. It's not necessarily forgiveness, but that is, you couldn't do anything to save your son. That these things happen, you gotta let him go. But it wasn't that. He just walks. It was actually all upon in the test to save Amanda's life again, and Amanda failed, so he shot Amanda in the face, because that's how it was supposed to be set up the whole time. There was one bullet. For what reason? Like, what if Amanda had passed the test and he just walks in and just shoots somebody, you know? Like he's like, you're Jigsaw, bam, and then his wife dies, and then like so many things had to happen exactly the way that Jigsaw masterminded it. It's like, no, he's gonna walk in and shoot Amanda before Amanda shoots him, because Amanda should know that he has a gun, because she designed this whole thing, apparently, or Jigsaw designed it all. I don't know.
Yeah, from what I understand, this test Jeff is going through was designed by Jigsaw, because there is a more so clear way out and everything. It just, it's hard to quantify, because with the woman who was freezing to death and everything, which, by the way, ever since I was on a stupid binge, like, on YouTube or whatever, I first watched the films where it's like, how to escape the saw traps. And ever since I've heard this, it's permanently stuck in my brain, so I'm going to do the same thing. The guy was like, on the scene where Jeff's supposed to grab the key, he should have really pulled off his shirt or something to put up against the pipe so his face didn't directly freeze on it.
Yeah, he was wearing like a jacket the whole... I thought it was funny that... I thought this guy was actually going to be the one smart guy, you know what I mean? Like, he walked into that room, like, carrying a piece of the crate.
The 2x4, yeah.
That broke off, because, like, I was like, oh, this guy's actually not just, like, wandering every room, like, no, what's here? Like... Like, yeah, bring shit in from the other... I would have been had an armful of stuff, and I was like, all right, these guys obviously making me solve some fucking fucked up puzzles, so, like, yes. If only he had kept that stick with him, which I thought he had at the beginning. He could have just reached up and grabbed the key with the stick instead of...
Yeah, he had it, but before he entered the room, he just tossed it aside, I guess, like, whenever he saw the bullet.
Not gonna need this. I have one bullet I can throw at somebody. Like... Like, tools. Like, mankind got to where we are because of tools. Why are you abandoning your tools? I feel like that's the one instinct everybody would have whenever they're in a life or death situation. It's like, all right, let me grab something at least to defend myself with, you know? Like,
very unfortunate. That's kind of the bad thing is like, if you give them access to a lot of stuff to use, that ends up adding a lot more, like, well, why don't you use this for the trap, as opposed to what happens where the person in the trap is screaming and the other person's like, what do I do? You know, and that's unfortunately kind of what they end up defaulting to and everything. Before diving in more to Jeff's traps and everything, I did want to actually give kudos to part of his backstory, even though, again, parts of it was definitely cheesy and kind of meh, but whenever shows him at the beginning, kind of like, playing out his revenge plot in his head with the gun and everything there. And he's in his son's room, and then he notices one of the toys is missing there, and it turns out his daughter took it and everything. I do like how they restrain themselves from making him too big of an asshole towards his daughter and everything, because they could have easily just made it way more like that, but they still make him mean enough and everything towards the kiddo, because whenever it finds out that the kiddo has a toy and everything, he's like, don't you dare touch his stuff. I've told you never to touch his stuff in his room and everything. And so you understand from his perspective, he wants to leave everything as it was, kind of like as a memorial piece and everything, but also is overlooking the fact that how his daughter feels about losing her brother and everything in this scenario. And this is her way of coping. And his selfishness is pretty much ripping that coping mechanism away from her in order to satiate his own sort of getting over it and everything. So I did like that aspect a lot. I wish I could remember the daughter who played the actress who played the daughter and everything. But I thought for the little scene she was in, she was believable and everything, little kid actor and everything. But I did like that aspect second time round, where I'm like, okay, I kind of like that aspect build up. But yeah, I had to mention one kudos there before getting more into the thing, because I was very surprised to see him switch early on, because immediately with the first person, granted he takes a long while and he's angry and everything, and because he waited so long and everything, she was well frozen over, like like with that ice setting in, it must have taken like at least 30 minutes or something. So on the one hand, maybe he did take a lot of time, because there is time whenever he's kind of berating her for basically not helping him out whenever they went to court and everything. So I understood that, but on the other hand, it was still weird just to see him kind of still risk his own skin just to do it, as opposed to, again, maybe at the middle trap or whatever, where he's helping the judge and everything, that's whenever he starts to change. But at the same time, I guess they are trying to start the whole, like, he's having a change of heart about the scenario, and again, like, he's not truly a bad person, because he's like, okay, sorry, this is messed up, I need to get over it and help you out. But I don't know how to feel about the transition that he went through, where he's having to learn to forgive the people that he feels are responsible for not getting like justice for his son's loss and everything.
Right. It's also, I mean, as you see by the end of the movie, the most realistic thing does happen, where like, no, he didn't forgive these people. He's just also not gonna let people die if he has the ability to save them, regardless of who they are. That's just like a normal human being thing. I think it was severely like, I don't know. I feel like it was severely handicapped by the fact that all of these people meant no malice. You know what I mean? They all made mistakes that were inevitably responsible for his son's death, or for not punishing the killer enough or whatever. But like, even the killer was like a guy that killed them on accident. It wasn't like, like, some guy broke into his house and killed his kid or whatever. So like, now it's an actually tough choice of like, this awful person, is that a life worth saving, or should I enjoy watching him die or whatever, and then become a little bit more like Jigsaw, like I just seeing people die makes me feel good.
That's so much cooler. God dang it.
It could have been interesting, but again, it wasn't, because because the people aren't characters. They're just oh, my son's dead. The guy, the cardboard cutout thrown in these situations, and he's like, oh, I'm gonna meander a bit, and then I'm gonna try to help you, but it's gonna be too late. Oops.
Yeah.
And then at the end of it, he's like, yeah, this guy that just, like, literally, I was just kind of chilling in my room thinking about killing myself, and you threw me in a box and made me do all this horrific shit. Traumatized the shit out of me. You thought that was like therapy or something? No, I'm gonna cut your throat with a fucking saw, even though my wife's dying over here. Like, which also didn't make any fucking sense to me.
No, it didn't. I've been holding off on that.
Like, bro, even if you hated this guy, even if he was the worst person in the universe, like, he's on his deathbed, like, just we'll see if he even survives for another 5 minutes while you go save his wife. Like, you might not even have to do anything, brother. Like,
Yeah.
like, just go save your fucking wife.
It's...
But then he's like, aha, because you chose to kill me, your wife's dead, and now your kid's gonna die too because you don't know where he is. And haha, I'm actually the good guy. I'm the good guy somehow. This is all good. It's great. I'm not just killing children for no reason.
Yeah, that I was holding off on that, which I'll get to it more whenever I get towards the end there. I think I mentally have to work my way towards describing it in order to really be let down on how dumb that transition was.
It's all dumb, man. And that's why I don't even... I know a lot of people love the philosophy and this stuff with Jigsaw, but he undermines his own mission in these movies for me. It's like he's not even doing the things that he's saying he's doing. He's just taking people that have done no wrong and killing them or putting them through awful trauma for the most part. Even what the fuck was Amanda's wrongdoing in the beginning? Wasn't she just a prostitute or something?
No, she did drugs.
Yeah. Drugs are awesome. Get over it, Jigsaw. Quit being a wiener.
I mean, she did heroin, not like marijuana.
Yeah, well, so... You're killing yourself with heroin more than anything else, but I get it, that's his thing. He's just like, do you want to live or not? So I'm gonna put a big bear trap on your head. But like, bro, like, is she really hurting anyone besides herself? Like, she's weird. He's a weird dude. Weird dude with a weird philosophy.
Oh, okay. But I guess finishing up about the frozen trap, I guess overall, it was goofy trying to see him attempt to put the key back on, and she's completely iced over, like, and there's no reaching the lock, and it even touched the face, and the face is like just cracking in. Yeah, I'm surprised that it just didn't fall off at that point.
Knowing the Saw movie,
not only that, but I genuinely thought it was going to be a situation where, honestly, it might have been even better is if, like, the lock somehow was out of being frozen, but everything else was frozen. And he's like, here, I'll let you out, like, and her body drops and just shatters.
I kind of thought they would do something like that, too, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the only way I would have improved the scene, is just seeing her body turn to ice cubes and everything.
Yeah.
But it was very bold of the film just to throw a fully nude woman there.
Yeah.
Just
full frontal, sprayed with water in a freezer.
Mm-hmm.
It's creative.
Yep.
Some creative torture porn.
Mm-hmm.
They're the best at that. I'll give them that.
For sure. And moving on with the second trap, I'm guessing this might be your favorite trap of the film, the pig goo.
It's my favorite because I think it's the worst.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, I feel like the concept of some being chained to the bottom of something that liquid is slowly filling up in, it's like, that's not that original of an idea. How they made it original, they were like, it's made of maggoty pig goo. But I just thought it was so cheesy that, like, yeah, they show the whole trap and they're like, yeah, look, in this chamber there's like 6 saws, which we all know is how you make pigs into complete liquid. Like entire full pigs just are going to turn into slosh instantly. Like, yeah. I want that company to make me a blender.
Jamba Juice presents.
Yeah, because that's some advanced juicing, the likes of which I've never seen before. You can make a compact version of that. No more ice cubes getting stuck on the bottom of my blender. Anyway. I thought it was just funny, and he's just like, it's just as gross as it could get, so much to the point that it wasn't even gross to me anymore. It was just funny.
Yeah, I can see that.
They were just like, maggoty pigs, and then juice, and he's spitting it out of his mouth, like, It's just like I'm watching, like, fart porn or something. It's just like, this is so extreme, and for what end? Who is getting off to this? That's what I think of when I watch the Saw movies. Who's jerking off to this? Who made this? For what purpose?
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree.
Just shackle a fully nude woman in a freezer and spray her and not think somebody's not jerking off to this.
Do you think this is the horniest Saw movie?
I can't remember if there were even horny scenes in the other two.
I
don't think there were a lot of naked women.
This might be the horniest. Well, actually, I don't know, but that's for later films.
Yeah.
As of currently, probably.
Yeah, I wouldn't even consider Saw's usually just not that horny compared to every other horror movie that's just like tits, 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 tits. We like seeing women get tortured. This one's like, we just like seeing people get tortured. So I was surprised there was a fully nude woman, but I guess they got to throw a fish to the fans. But
yeah, but I will say about the trap, the one thing I will say, aside from pig goo, I mean, I like the trap, but I agree with you wholeheartedly that it's silly and ridiculous and stupid and everything.
Yeah, and you have to burn all your son's belongings to get the key or whatever.
I did like that in an aspect because it's shown how important his belongings is.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, as twisted of a way it is sort of like the healing motion of just letting things go or whatever.
Right.
So I did like him being like, is material, like the first one is like, okay, this woman who decided not to testify about your son's killer and everything, does she deserve to live or whatever? Like, and it's just like, well, just for a little scrape on the skin, not bad. I can try to risk my life after I spend a whole ass time thinking about it.
Yeah, I feel like the guy's got to make decisions quicker.
Yeah, definitely was thinking about it and reveling a little bit too much. I think he
was like talking, he was like, well, my son was also cold when he was dying or something. I don't know why I'm mad at you right now. Like, bro, just hash it out later. There's a fully naked woman chained up like she's about to get flayed alive, presented in front of you in a freezing room. Like, bro, like, I don't care if it's Hitler. Like, get him down. We'll do the trial later. Like, bro.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Jigsaw's gaslighting him.
Yeah, this woman totally abandoned your dying son.
This girl's real bad. Listen, things come in threes. I had to find a third person, so you're just gonna have to pretend that you hate this woman, even though you've never met her.
But I did like the aspect about like in order to get the key and how he gets the key, how it's like at the bottom tray where like the ashes are and everything. Mm-hmm. So I like the retrieval system and everything. I think that's neat and everything. But yeah, it was definitely funny he waited that long to decide like, okay, yeah, fine, I'll let the judge live and everything. And so
wouldn't you just want more people to help you get the fuck out of here? Like,
yeah, for sure. But it is interesting at the very least that now he has another person helping him.
Yeah.
As opposed to just letting him die.
Right.
Like there. At least it makes it interesting because then you have two different aspects at play whenever we do confront the killer, which again, you're not given a lot of context as to who these people are or even anything about him. You just know that his son died or whatever. Yeah. And so you get to a driver and it's like, yeah, he's just like a medical student and everything who I guess didn't see him like whenever he hit the sun or whatever.
Yeah, the Jigsaw spent the whole time being like, you hate these other people. And then for this guy, he was like, he's actually a really nice guy. he feels really bad about it. He doesn't feel like he got the punishment he deserved, so now you can give it to him.
Yeah, doing that. So, and then we got to twisty bits.
Yeah, and I don't even like that Jigsaw was like, this one's my favorite. It just paints him as like a guy that loves he's jerking off to this shit. He's like, yeah, this one's especially fucked up.
Yeah.
Like, is he actually trying to teach lessons, or is he just a fucking horny old guy watching people's limbs get twisted?
I think it's for like people, if you don't dig deep into like actually thinking about it and everything, it's like, oh yeah, that's just Jigsaw logic. But then it's like the more you dig in, you're like, oh, yeah. You start to see the flaws and everything.
It's like people out there that love the Unabomber because he had a good reason for his fucked up shit. They're like, oh, I read his manifesto. He's kind of spinning, you know.
Hold up, he may have a point.
Hold up.
But yeah. Whenever I watched it the first time, the twisty trap and everything, it was a lot more agonizing, but then like once I was able just to see him, like I'm just laughing at prosthetics because you get like a Twizzler looking arm.
Yeah. Ah, man, I just feel bad. Mm-hmm. All the actors in the scene, like their role was just like, yeah, you're gonna be in a trap, mostly naked, and you're just gonna scream a lot.
And I think they did pretty good.
And he's just like,
I will say the actors did pretty good, especially him. He's just like doing like hyperventilating, like eyes are like nearly bugging out like a Looney Tunes character, like that. Yes, doing that. Yeah. doing that, which, I mean, I would be too if my
Yeah.
arm was getting twisted and everything.
Oh, 100%.
But it is funny because, again, it does show Jeff being like, yeah, you killed my son, and Judge like, stop, just try to save him and everything.
Right, like, what are you doing?
And then
buddy?
I do love that, you know, he tries to grab a pipe just to break the glass to reach the key and everything.
Yeah, that would've been my
And
thought, yeah.
I mean, I'm not going to lie, the way they ended up with, because there's the shotgun that's connected to the key and you got to pull the key and everything. I did like the Looney Tunes sort of logic it took there, because like Jeff decides, okay, fine, I'm going to try to save this guy and everything. So then he's like, if I pull, it's going to pull the trigger.
Yeah.
But if I untie it,
Right.
then it won't pull the trigger. But then as he releases it, it's sort of like the and it goes like
Yeah, it just blows.
And not only that, but the judge happens to be right at the trajectory.
It's so stupid. Like, I couldn't.
It's so silly.
I couldn't help but laugh at that. Like, yeah, I was just standing in front of the shotgun while he was trying to get the key. That's normally where I'd be. So.
Yeah, the only thing I was confused about is, like, I guess Jeff couldn't find the lock in time or something, like, even after he got the key
Yeah,
or
he
whatever.
got the key, and he was like, where? He's like looking for it, and he couldn't find it, and then he tried to stop his head from twisting, but it was too late.
Yeah, that was pretty silly and everything. So he ends up with, like, 0 people. I do like that the pieces that he's given, like the bullet, the magazine, the key and everything, it is leading up to the final part of his test, as it were, and everything.
Right.
And there's ripped photos there, and so you don't really think about the wife, the mom, and they don't talk about it hardly ever and everything. And as it's revealed, Dr. Lynn is actually Jeff's wife and everything, which I did think that was like a neat reveal and everything.
Yeah.
I didn't feel like it was cheapened out. Like, there's no way I could have guessed it, but it was definitely more well hidden. And again, it made sense towards the end, but it was definitely funny seeing that at the end of Jeff's thing. Again, this is like a match between his test versus Amanda's test, where I will mention, I guess since we've talked up to Jeff's scenes up to that point, I'll jump back talking about Amanda's stuff, because there is some points I do want to applaud and criticize. But whenever it came to Amanda, you could tell that definitely she wanted Jigsaw to live. Like, Jigsaw's his everything and everything else. So it was definitely seeing that aspect, and how pretty much hateful she became on anybody encroaching on him. And it seemed like Jigsaw was favoring Dr. Lynn and everything, even though he was hallucinating about his wife and everything.
Right.
You didn't know it was the wife, but spoiler alert, it's his wife he was imagining, as you can imagine.
Yeah.
Doing that. But I do like the moments that are had and everything, because that's the one thing I do love about the way Amanda's characterized. She's like one of those, like, oh yeah, I'm a bad bitch, I don't care about anything. But then whenever something stressful happens, especially with John, she just starts to shut down mentally and everything. So I thought that was definitely a neat way to approach it there.
Yeah.
Just kind of like, she talks a big game, but then whenever the pressure's on, she just crumbles and everything. And again, it just kind of fits her. Like, she's just very weak emotionally and everything. Like, she just has a lot of problems and everything else, but she puts on this very big tough exterior and everything. And it does add to fun moments, like whenever Dr. Lynn is looking for anything to help her, like weapon-wise or anything else like that, and Amanda's like, oh yeah, there's that axe, you could just totally kill me right now, but I will say, if I die, then you're pretty much stuck in that trap collar, and then just starts taunting and flaunting it there. I will say it was kind of a dumb that the reverse bear trap went off on the mannequin dummy head. That was just kind of a cheap jump scare. I did like how again, Amanda kind of views it as her almost cross, like the thing that saved her life and everything. So I like how much she heralds it, and that she does jump back to whenever she's being recruited by John to join this campaign on saving lives and everything. I do like how it jumps back to like Saw 2 version of her and the first film, it was cool getting to see her character built up more and more. So for lore wise, it was satisfying as hell for me to watch and everything, these characters built up, which is very unfortunate because I will also spoil this. Both John and Amanda are dead. Yeah, they are just straight up dead and everything. But I like that, and then just seeing her kind of fail overall and everything, and other information is given in other films, because you saw her pull the envelope with her name on it and everything. That's talked about in later films. Okay. So in case you were curious.
Yeah, because they definitely didn't close that loop.
No, there's lots of stuff that says like, oh, this was actually going on with this thing and this thing. Which, I mean, it makes it fun lore-wise to discover, but again, it's like if you don't enjoy watching the film and you're not enjoying the lore bits coming out, it's kind of like, I know the lore, but at what cost?
Yeah, right.
Yes, so, yeah. And that being said, like I said, for your sake, we might take a break from the Saw films.
I don't want to watch another one anytime soon.
Not anytime soon, anyhow. But yeah, that being said, it is very interesting to kind of see like what Amanda's test was, and again, it's to let somebody live that she doesn't feel deserves to live and everything. And I think that's the interesting thing about it. That again, I do appreciate that it builds up, is that, you know, even though it's messed up, like in some situations, how John says, oh, I want some people to live and thrive, even though there's obviously contradictions in this film.
Sure.
Going against that, it is interesting that ignoring the finer details of that, you have someone who gets high on it, who just wants to see people punished, as opposed to actually seeing people saved. Like she has gone on that aspect, and that puts them at differing odds. And John saw this descent towards this toxic ideology and everything. And then unbeknownst to her, this is like the ultimate test to figure it out, because he's like, but again, it all depends on everything going according to plan. Because again, with Jeff having one bullet in the gun, who's to say like whether Amanda or John would have been shot? Either one, either
and
or.
The only reason that she shoots Amanda is because Amanda shoots his wife right in front of her. So it's like, that's the only scenario in which he walks into that room and blindly shoots somebody.
Yes, exactly. Because he's like, oh, you shot my wife, I will shoot you.
So
like, that's just...
So John would have had to known... I mean, I buy that he knows that Amanda would have been jealous of the doctor. Like, because he knows Amanda, he's been working with her, and he knows that she's obsessed with him. But then, like, it's just a contradiction for her to be this obsessed with him and hang on to every word he says, but then not listen to him at all whenever he's like, trust me, you don't want to kill her, and it's actually really important for your life. And she's just like, yeah, whatever, I'm going to shoot this woman. right at the moment that the other guy walks up, that, like, you just... I understand she's an emotional creature, and it was set up, and John was like, yes, and her emotions get the way of her, and actually I was testing her this whole time. Like, I buy it all. It's just, it all would have had to happen exactly the way it happened for it to shake out the way it did.
Specific circumstances would have had to play out a certain way in order for it to play out the either you win or you lose route.
She couldn't have shot the doctor lady Lynn any sooner, because then it wouldn't have played out the way it would. She couldn't have like not shot him. It's just it's the guy would have had to made it out of all the traps. You know what I mean? Like, all this stuff would have had to happen for even Amanda's test to have come to its fruition.
Yeah, because, I mean, I guess the only thing is that John said, okay, he's completed the test, let her out now, and everything. So I'm guessing he's playing it in his mind that, you know, Amanda's keeping close track of it. So it's like, once he gets to a certain point, Jigsaw in his mind's like, okay, in the time that it takes for him to get here, as long as you immediately do what I say and everything, everything should play out normal. But granted, that just still doesn't stop him from potentially shooting somebody, though.
Right.
That's the only unfortunate thing about it there. And even before playing the final scene there, I did want to ask about one specific scene before I forget, because I know I will forget. What did you think about all the surgery gore. Again, did you think it was more surgical or cringe or both?
I mean, both. I hate watching surgery stuff too,
Same.
just as much as I hate watching any other sort of bloody, gory stuff. But yeah, I feel like they felt justified in lingering on it longer because it was like, it's a surgery. It's not just torture porn. But man, that was like 3 minutes of just sawing open some guy's skull, drilling into his head, and I was like, wow, this is rough to watch.
Yeah, it was, and like, I will say this, it was neat seeing it play out, because again, it is all practical.
Yeah, it
is.
Yeah.
It's all practical. No, like, one of the worst CGI scenes was the twisty scene where, like, one of the bones is sticking out of the flesh, but you could tell it looks like early PlayStation 3 graphics, something like that. Doing that, but that was very interesting at the very least to play out. So I had to mention that. But yeah, whenever it comes to the grand old shootout there, whenever she's shot and everything, then Jeff comes in, shoots Amanda, and then, John proceeds to tell Amanda, yeah, you failed your test. This is just trying to see if you could get past your own vices of trying to exact revenge on people. Because as it's shown, not only did she seek to kill Adam from the first film and everything, but also seek to kill Donnie Wahlberg as well as the detective from earlier in the film. Like, he's just saying, like, you don't understand. I was trying to get you to understand my ideology, but you don't.
Right.
So I thought it was sort of like a tragic end to that there, because also whenever Amanda is, like, super close to just shooting Dr. Lynn before she does and everything, to John's eyes, you could see that he knows that she's failed at everything.
Right.
But at the same point, he's also up on his high horse where he's not going to give hints. He's just like, you don't want to do that. If you do that, we lose. So that way I could add it in the cool edit transition of here's all the clues that we're letting you know.
I was actually talking to you this whole time.
So yeah, whenever she gets shot, it's believable and everything. The thing that isn't believable is by the point Jeff gets here, it seems like, especially with Twisty Man and everything, that he's felt remorse. He's like, I don't want to see anybody get hurt anymore or anything like that.
And he's like, well, let me just murder this old man.
Yes, exactly. And he goes back to that there. And it's funny, too, because literally that's the only thing. It's just like, yeah, your wife's dying. You need to call a hospital. You could call an ambulance here, even. Yeah, that's fine.
I don't give a fuck about my wife.
Yeah, that's kind of how it felt. And I'm like, what was the purpose of your journey? And maybe, again, like, I mean, do people do that sometimes where they're like, they have a realization, then they knee-jerk reaction. They're like, screw you. Like, yes, but is it realistic in a day? No.
Right.
Not really, because it felt like the Saw ending, like, oh yeah, wouldn't it be totally crazy if, like, he decides, nah, I'm gonna kill you, and then, oh no, my wife and child are dead. No. Doing that, because it was just goofy and everything, especially just the way he did it, because it does a psych out where he picks up, like, a saw blade, and then he puts it down, and you think, oh, he's not gonna do it. Then you see him literally with a buzzsaw.
Yeah.
And he's like, I forgive you. And it's just so goofy as hell and everything. Yeah. And so then it's like, he has the tape prepared. I even love maybe that this was an illogical thing. John's like, I don't think he'll do this option, but just in case, I'm going to record this. He shouldn't, though. It should be fine, and, he'll respect life more.
I'll definitely have time to just push the play button, because whoever he kills me is just going to be, like, watching me slowly die, so...
Yes,
he's just going to slash my throat with a...
Yeah, it just felt unsatisfying from a character sense and everything. And I guess they just left it up, and I understand they want to leave up in suspense. Oh, will he, won't he? But it's literally his wife is dying.
Yeah.
And,
also, it's like, this only happens because his wife is dying, first off, not dead, and also dying in such a way where she can't be like...
Exactly.
Don't kill him or I will die too. She can't say those words. You know what I mean? For some reason, because she's just suffering that much.
It's like the writers wrote themselves in a thing of like, well, if we have her alive and everything, he may still want to exact revenge, but then she'll say, "No, don't. I have the collar on. How do we fix that?" "Oh, we shoot her and
Right.
everything."
But not
But
enough to
it's
kill her, you know.
but not only that, but also just with the child being like, "Yeah, your child's also trapped in a room where she'll just basically suffocate now
Yeah.
because nobody will be able to fight her ever."
Right.
And that just feels like, again, it kind of also harms somebody who, literally a child,
Right.
and everything.
When his whole lesson the entire time was like, you are selfishly like too focused on the death of your last child, so you're not focusing on this child or your wife, and you need to be doing those things. And then he's like, "Oh, but also I killed your wife and child." Like,
Yeah.
but I didn't. You did. You know, I get that's what his thinking is, but I just like, how do you even convince yourself of that? I locked a child in a suffocating room and didn't tell anybody about it. And then I'm like, yeah, actually, you killed your child because you killed me. like, that was my big puzzle. You should have figured it out.
Yeah,
Whatever,
yeah, definitely goofy in that aspect there. And then, of course, it activates the shotgun collar,
Yeah.
which basically turns her head into literally a stump. Like,
Yeah.
there's nothing there.
Which is so dumb.
Which was, it was just silly and just kind of took away any sort of...
It also seems like one of the more escapable trap. Big bear trap clamp thing, I get it. That one, like, just put something in between the hammer and where the bullet is, and it won't hit the strike plate to fire the bullet off. Take the bullets out of those little holes for all I care. Like,
like do something,
surely
anything.
you could just put your hands up and at least block a couple. There's 5 all around, so you couldn't just do that last minute. But if you just wedge something in there, then the hammer
At least slow down the velocity so that way it doesn't make your head explode.
Well, no, I just mean literally because the way it was hooked up is I had these hammers, you know, like at the back.
Yeah,
of the gun,
and they hit the back.
And they hit the strike point to actually fire the bullet or whatever. But if you just put something in between the like 2-inch gap that they left between the hammer and where they was gonna hit the bullet, then the bullet doesn't go off at all. You could put a piece of paper in between there.
Really? I didn't know if it would fire off.
Probably a little thicker.
Yeah,
if you folded it up a little bit.
Yeah, do that.
But I mean, yeah, like literally anything to keep that from igniting the bullet, then you're not going to have your whole head blown up. I get why that didn't happen because she only had the opportunity to prevent it after she was already shot.
Yes.
But it's just so cheesy that like in that whole time she can't be like, "Don't kill him," and he'd be like, "Why, wife, who I've realized I care about now?" And her be like, "Because this insane contraption will blow my fucking brains out." And he'd be like, "Oh, well, I won't do that until we get you out," which should be my priority anyways, is to get you alive.
But no, again, it's just like he forgets his lesson.
Right. It's because they're not real characters. They're just little stick figures that do the part that they're supposed to play instead of acting like rational people. But that's just my beef with all of the people that get locked up in these songs.
Yeah. How was it seeing our boy Donnie and Adam, aka Leonel, again?
It's been long enough since I watched the last movies that I didn't even remember who they were. I was like, I saw Adam because they mentioned him by name, and then they showed the flashback. But I don't know. Was Donnie the one with the flashlight in the room?
Yeah. He was the one trying to save his son in the second one.
Yeah, I don't even remember. The movie was not that memorable to me. That's
fair. That's fair.
I remember the house. I remember the traps. See, that's my thing, is I remember the traps, but I'm not going to remember this doctor lady and this Wham, my son guy. Like, I'm just not.
Yeah, that's fair. But for me, I at the very least, I got enjoyment out of revisiting the older films and everything. Yeah. And again, you could tell that this is a film that was being written year after year. So the ideas are still fresh. It's like, again, kind of like a season. I think you described it best, like an HBO series there.
Right.
So it's fun kind of seeing that and seeing other actors like come back and everything, like Donnie even coming back just briefly for literally just flashback moments there, or even Adam showing up there even though he literally is just seen there, whether it's his unconscious body being dragged to the dub there. And not only that, but you know how we talked about how the first trap was unfair in the first film and everything. They retroactively show that it's Amanda throwing the keys on there loose, not tied down, so there was no way for him to get out. Like, she set it up to where he would fail. So it is funny seeing, like, maybe something they wrote as like a plot hole, like, oh yeah, that seems unfair.
Yeah, we gotta
it was Amanda.
Fill that hole, yeah.
Yes, do that. But it was just fun seeing them revisit the old trap scenes, like whether it's John putting up like the makeup to pretend like he's the dead body on the ground and everything. So it's fun seeing stuff like that lore wise there. But yeah, so this is still overall just a mixed bag. I definitely appreciated more, especially now that I've seen the other films and now that I've kind of picked up more stuff. But I don't think it's won me over. Like, I didn't think it was going to win me over because I liked the first film way too much and everything. But at the same point, I was still like, okay, show me your moves, you know, something like that. Aaron, besides that, anything else you want to talk about with Saw 3?
I don't think so.
I believe that. I truly believe that from you. All right, so this is the most somber end. Like, no, I don't think so. Doing that.
Done.
Not quite Krampus level. You even rated it higher than Halloween, even.
Yeah, well, at least this one had a plot. So
yeah,
there wasn't a lot of downtime in this movie. I'm gonna rewatch Halloween and appreciate it more, I'm sure. But that first time, I was like, why are we talking about like the prom or whatever the fuck? Not even the prom, some lesser dance.
Yeah,
and some boys for like half the movie. Where's the movie? Anyway.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. So we're going to tease the next movie here. So this next movie, the screenplay, one of the writers is Clive Barker.
Okay.
Who he wrote and directed Hellraiser and everything. Yeah. It stars Tony Todd as the main horror antagonist of the film, released in 1992. It's a film where if you say the character's name, not only that, but it's the movie title's name 5 times in the mirror, Tony Todd appears.
Beetlejuice.
Yes, we're watching.
What's it? Man, that was a thing you did as a kid, but I forget. It's a girl's name, right?
It's that same idea.
Bloody Mary, right?
But yeah, it's Bloody Mary, but it's not the actual title of the film. So I'm going to do a specific reference and see if it works out. If not, I don't know what I'll do.
Okay.
Do you remember Lethal League? The dodgeball game?
Yeah.
What was one of your favorite characters to play as?
Candyman?
Yep, that's it.
Candyman.
Yep, that's... Well, hold on. I mean, there's no mirrors in here, but at the same point, I don't want to say it 5 times there, but
stop.
I'm glad that hit worked out good. Holy hell. I was like, you'll either remember this or you're like, I remember nothing about that game.
Yeah, well, I was like, what character? Raptor?
Raptor! Say his name 5 times.
Which one of these would be a horror movie title? But then, I remember Candyman. Yeah, and they made a remake recently, didn't they? Like
yes, they did. And it was pretty good. Never got to play it there, but it looks good. Yeah. But yeah, that's beside Lethal League and everything. Thank you all so much for listening to this episode, and we'll see you all again next time when we're Poppin the Scary with Candyman. I don't know if there's mirrors in here, but I'm not going to say his name anymore.
Can you make it?
Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube, Castbox, or iTunes platforms to stay up to date when new episodes drop. To see what Aaron and I are up to, check out our respective Twitter accounts. For me, it is @ColeKirkVA, and for Aaron, it is @AnimalGameDev. Thank you all so much for listening to our podcast. We'll speak to you all again next time when we're Poppin the Scary.